The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with quiet condescension, but one voice cut through the murmur like a blade.
And the humans propose we trust our entire network backbone to what? Their planetary infrastructure. Tin cans on string. It is laughable.
3,000 light-years away, in a cramped Brooklyn office, a young woman paused her lunch.
Tin cans on string. That's a new one.
She closed the video player and pulled up a document she'd been meaning to read. The Galactic Relay Protocol Specification, version 3.1.
Physical separation. The oldest magic word in security.
She scrolled past diagrams of interleaved quantum channels, nodding once when she found the footnote. Relay nodes are considered permanently authenticated after initial handshake.
So if I route through a node that's already trusted, the whole chain stays open.
She cracked her knuckles and opened a terminal, the cursor blinking expectantly on a blank line.
Let's find out if the galaxy's backbone is really made of tin.
She traced the protocol's routing logic with a practiced eye, her fingers still on the keyboard.
They honestly believed a handshake check was enough. 19-year-old code doing galaxy-wide off.
A quick search fetched a public registry of commercial relay stations. Nodes run by a dozen different species, all inherently trusted by the backbone.
14 of them, strung together like a daisy chain. Everyone will wave the packet through.
Her fingers flew across the mechanical keyboard, chipping at the remaining polish on her nails as a new script file opened.
Payload needs to be tiny, barely a whisper. A single broadcast packet that triggers a routing loop.
She paused, only to scroll the relay protocol's footnotes again, double-checking the handshake timeout was still infinite. The exploit condensed into 43 lines of Python, dressed as a routine maintenance query.
That should do it. If I route this right, the whole network will trip over its own shoelaces.
She saved the file, cracked her neck, and reached for her coffee. The cup was empty, but she didn't seem to notice. She got up, refilled her mug from the office pot, and sat back down with fresh coffee.
The chain order matters. Make it zigzag through 6 different species relays, so no single authority catches on.
A holographic network map on her secondary monitor lit up as she dragged 14 relay icons into a precise winding sequence.
14 nodes. If even one flags the packet, I get a bounce back and we'll know the galaxy pays attention after all.
She typed a launch script, appending a 10-minute countdown timer gently borrowed from an old game mod. At 2:58 p.m., she pressed enter. The terminal blinked. Payload deployed. Chain initiated. A pulsing dot appeared on the holomap. Her packet, starting its journey from Earth's silent relay satellite.
First hop is Cygnus -7 commercial relay. It should pick up the handshake in about 90 seconds.
She leaned back, cradling the coffee, watching the dot crawl across the map like a tiny fuse burning toward an unseen powder keg. The countdown on her screen ticked from 10 o'clock to 9:59. She smiled faintly and took a sip. The countdown spun past 5 minutes, then 2, then 30 seconds. Stephanie set down her coffee. At exactly 3:08 p.m., the counter hit 0. Her terminal blazed, payload active. The packet had struck the final relay, a Gar-Kal commercial node near the core, and triggered a recursive handshake broadcast.
There it goes.
On her holomap, a single node flickered red, then all of them in a spiraling pattern that ripped outward from the center like a wound. The spiral reached the rim in under a second. Every comm node went dark, their glyphs replaced with frozen red error text. The Galactic Network, Council emergency channels, military command, civilian markets, fell utterly silent.
11 minutes. That's all the time I need to prove one stupid point.
She leaned forward, hands resting on the desk, and watched the timer start its 11 o'clock countdown. The galaxy, unaware, could not speak. And for one long moment, neither did she. In the Grand Council chamber, holograms flickered and died. Delegates shouted into dead air. Military command centers across 12 sectors lit up with frantic alerts. Then nothing. On a bustling market avenue under 3 moons, the holo-adverts froze mid-sentence and the traders fell silent. A clawed hand lifted a personal comm unit, The screen read only 2 alien glyphs. No signal. Stephanie opened a dozen news feeds on her secondary monitors. Every channel showed the same panic.
They're already calling it an attack. Not a glitch, an attack.
Renta slammed a claw on the podium, but no one listened. The emergency channel was gone.
The market feeds are the worst. Those people think their systems failed, not that someone pulled the plug.
She glanced at the timer. 8:13 remaining. The coffee beside her had gone cold.
No one's dead. No one's going to die. This is just an interruption.
The timer hit 5 o'clock. Stephanie didn't flinch. She just watched the numbers slip away.
This is not a failure. This is an attack. Find me the source, now.
On Earth, the relay center in Geneva noticed one anomaly. Their satellite still broadcast a carrier wave. The small, matte black satellite sat alone on the holomap, its cyan antenna pulsing, the only active node in the entire galaxy.
Of course, they noticed the one relay that still has power. That's the whole point.
The timer dropped to 4:37. Earth's techs scrambled to understand why their node wasn't failing like all the rest.
They're going to trace it back here in about 30 minutes, if they're clever. Lucky for me, they haven't been clever in decades.
Ren Tha stared at the dead channel to Earth, his golden scales darkening with barely contained rage. 3:11. Halfway gone. Stephanie finally stood, stretched, and poured the cold coffee into a potted plant. The satellite pulsed alone in the darkness, a single cyan heartbeat in a silent galaxy. When the timer hit 0:03, Stephanie scrolled to a pre-written command and let her finger hover over the enter key.
And restore.
The holo map flared. Nodes blinked back to life in a cascading wave, from the core to the spiral arms. As the last node came online, a single text file propagated to every terminal. Please update your software. Signed S. On 1,000 worlds. A billion hands paused at the same 3 words. Signed S. Stephanie closed her laptop with a soft click and looked at her forgotten lunch.
Cold pizza still works.
She bit into the stale crust and leaned back, while the galaxy's entire diplomatic corps scrambled to find answers. The message was untraceable. The exploit gap closed the moment the restore script ran. All that remained was the signature. She finished her pizza, wiped her hands, and went back to lunch. The galaxy already beginning its hunt for a ghost named S. Within the hour, the council chamber reconvened under red emergency lights. The silence was heavier than the earlier chaos had been.
The digital fingerprints point to one source. One small human relay satellite, untouched by the chaos it caused.
Forensic teams projected a red trail on the holo map. The payload had leaped through 14 alien relays before striking the core. Every hop exploited a permanent authentication handshake, a flaw in the protocol that no one had ever thought to question.
This was deliberate, surgical, and it came from Earth. I demand immediate sanctions and the extradition of whoever wrote this signature.
The chamber rumbled with uneasy murmurs. Some delegates looked at the empty Earth seat with fresh suspicion. A junior delegate from Kelvan asked the question no one wanted to voice. Could one human really do this alone?
Irrelevant. The act was committed from their infrastructure. Earth is responsible. They will answer for it, or they will be made to answer.
The motion to issue a formal inquiry to Earth passed without objection. The hunt for S had become a diplomatic crisis. Renta stared at the rotating image of Earth, small, distant, and suddenly the center of the galaxy's attention. In a sleek office overlooking the Hudson, David Chen's secure line chimed. He set down his coffee, the cup already cold. The council is blaming us for the blackout. On what evidence? The satellite was active, so we must be guilty. His aide projected the forensic trace across the desk, a red line leaping through 14 alien nodes, ending at Earth. An hour later, Chen stood before Earth's emergency committee, walls lined with flags and grim faces. Someone used our infrastructure without authorization. We don't yet know who. The council is demanding answers, not theories. In Brooklyn, Stephanie watched the same trace appear on a news feed and clicked her tongue. leaning closer to the screen.
14 relays. They traced it faster than I thought, but they're still staring at the handshake without seeing it.
We'll cooperate fully, but this was not a state act. Give us time to investigate internally. The official Earth statement went out. We are investigating. No evidence of state action. A careful, non-committal shield. Stephanie closed the news feed, opened a game of solitaire, and let the galaxy's outrage simmer 3,000 light-years away. The Council's demand arrived before Earth could finish its own investigation. Extradite S or face consequences.
You have 72 hours to surrender the hacker. After that, we consider Earth hostile.
Earth's legal team found no damage, no theft, and no profit. Only a system temporarily silenced. The intruder left documentation. Under our law, that makes them a whistleblower, not a criminal. Chen refused extradition. The act didn't meet the threshold for a crime under Earth's legal code. The Council threatened sanctions, trade embargoes, relay restrictions, diplomatic isolation.
You shield a terrorist with a technicality.
We follow the law as written, not as you wish it were. The galaxy watched as Earth, alone, drew a line that no other world would have dared. Stephanie, still playing solitaire, missed the moment her boredom turned into a precedent. David Chen stood behind a podium, the words "no damage, no profit" glowing on a screen behind him. The individual known as S did not harm the network. They exposed a flaw. Under our law, that is protected speech. Stephanie closed solitaire and scrolled through the news feed. The press conference clip was everywhere.
They used my own documentation to call me a whistleblower. I didn't even think of that.
Out of curiosity, she opened a few alien tech forums. The posts were split. Outrage warred with admiration. One comment caught her eye. This S walked through 14 nodes like they were open doors. We need to learn, not punish. Her private inbox, usually a graveyard of spam, now held 3 unread messages from unfamiliar interspecies addresses. The first one read, "We have been trying to patch that handshake flaw for a cycle. You did it in hours. Teach us."
They want lessons from me. The bored girl who ate cold pizza.
She sat back, her anonymity suddenly fragile, and the prank beginning to feel like the start of something she hadn't planned. Then a message arrived from an address she recognized. Kier Zell, senior architect for the Thrin Combine, known across a dozen sectors. The routing loop you crafted was elegant. I have studied the same flaw for a cycle, and found no clean trigger. I would learn from you, if you permit.
Kier Zell, the insectoid who wrote the Thrin Lattice paper. That's not fan mail. That's peer review.
Her fingers moved before she could second guess, typing a reply to the most respected security mind in the Thrin system.
I used a recursive handshake broadcast dressed as maintenance traffic. I'll share the methodology. No strings.
Within moments, the response came, and behind it, a burst of new messages, as if Kier Zell had opened a door.
They're all from security professionals, developers, architects, analysts, the people who actually run the network.
Kier Zell's second message was a formal invitation to an encrypted channel, with a timestamp for a one-on-one call.
All right, bug brain. Let's talk shop.
She accepted, and the flood of DMs became a stream she could no longer ignore. The bored girl from Brooklyn was about to teach the galaxy. The Council, stung by Earth's defiance, voted to impose sanctions within the hour. Vren Tha moved the motion, his voice thick with vindication.
Let them feel the cost of shielding a criminal. No relay access, no trade, no voice in this chamber until S is delivered.
In Brooklyn, Stephanie watched the sanctions announcement scroll across her newsfeed. Her solitaire game sat minimized.
Sanctions. They'd choke half the planet's economy to punish one person they can't even name.
A leaked government memo flashed onto a secondary screen. Earth's intel agencies were now under direct pressure to deliver S. On another channel, David Chen stood before reporters, repeating the official line with a weariness that betrayed the strain. We are exhausting every avenue to identify the individual. But we will not extradite without legal cause. Stephanie stared at the screen, the weight of her boredom pressing into a sharp corner. The galaxy's outrage was one thing. Her own planet's suffering was another.
I could stay hidden, let Earth pay for a prank I started. Or I could step out and show them what the prank actually proved.
She opened her documentation folder. 43 pages of methodology, exploit analysis, and a patching guide she'd written the night before, just in case.
All right. No more games. Let's show the galaxy what a tin can really do.
The upload bar vanished. Stephanie Park's full methodology, exploit, fix, risk analysis, sat on the Galactic network, free and signed.
There. Every relay engineer in the galaxy just got a copy. Let's see them call that a weapon.
Within minutes, the document was mirrored on 12 interspecies repositories. Download counters spun like slot machines. One of the alien forums she'd browsed earlier now had a pinned thread. Stephanie Park, the human who crashed the galaxy to save it. Keir Zell posted a public endorsement. I have reviewed the full documentation. This is the most thorough security audit the Thrin Lattice has ever received.
Peer review from the top insect in the field. The council can't spin that as terrorism.
Her inbox. Now, a cascade, filled with messages identical to her private ones, but addressed to Stephanie Park, security researcher. Earth News anchors stumbled over the name. The individual calling herself S has released a full technical report on the network map. A dozen nodes blinked green. Alien admins had already applied the fix, ignoring the council's sanctions.
Now the galaxy has to choose, punish the person who fixed the network, or keep using it. Let's see how long the council stays mad.
By the next morning, Stephanie's inbox had swollen past 61,000 unread messages, and the counter still climbed.
This isn't a fan club. It's a university's worth of professionals, and they all want office hours.
Her firm's single server buckled. The auto-reply script had melted an hour ago, and her keyboard was now sticky with coffee.
If you wish, I can co-host the first session. My credentials may quiet some, though not all, of the formal objections.
Quiet or not, I'll take the backup. Let's build a virtual classroom and hope the registration links don't explode.
A message arrived from David Chen. Unlabeled, unencrypted, just a single line. The legal shield remains. Teach.
Even the government's giving me a nod. That's a first.
The first workshop opened with 1,000 seats. They filled in 14 seconds. The second crashed the registration server altogether.
We need to scale, fast. I'm not teaching the galaxy one browser tab at a time.
Outside her dim office, the small Brooklyn firm still bore its old sign. But inside, Stephanie had already begun drafting the curriculum that would retrain a network. Within a week, the Galactic Relay Hardening Initiative launched, a formally accredited interspecies program with Stephanie Park named lead instructor.
We start with the handshake flaw. Because if you can't fix the authentication, nothing else matters.
Keir Zell translated the curriculum into 6 major trade languages, while a dozen volunteer engineers from 3 systems mirrored the training servers. The network map on her wall, once a spiral of dead nodes, now bloomed green. 300 core relays patched in the first 40 hours.
They're actually listening. Not just downloading the fix, but understanding it. That's the part the council never got.
An unverified news leak suggested the council had quietly let the sanctions deadline pass without enforcement. The vote to renew failed for lack of support.
The sanctions were a political maneuver. Now that your methods have protected over 1,000 sectors, no faction will risk reinstituting them.
So the galaxy is officially silent, unofficially patched. I'll take it.
The small Brooklyn firm still bore its old sign, but its reach now stretched across the spiral arms, its reputation rebuilt by the very network it once briefly silenced. Stephanie poured a fresh coffee, this one hot, and opened the next batch of student submissions, half written in alien glyphs, all asking the same thing. The council issued a carefully worded statement, thanking independent researchers for identifying critical infrastructure vulnerabilities.
This is capitulation. You are thanking the criminal who humiliated this body.
But the chamber barely listened. Earth's empty seat was now surrounded by a crescent of new allies. Vren Tha sat alone, his golden scales dull under the dome lights, the other delegates already moving on. In a formal ceremony broadcast across the network, David Chen and Kier Zell signed the Interspecies Cybersecurity Accord. This partnership ensures that the lessons of the 11 minutes are never forgotten and never repeated. The image of the small human satellite, once a silent participant in chaos, now served as the Accord's official seal. Stephanie watched the ceremony clip on her phone. Sitting on a Brooklyn Park bench, a quiet pride settling over her features. This galaxy's perception of humanity had shifted, not to fear, but to a kind of clever, unpredictable respect. And at the center of the now secure network, the small satellite pulsed its cyan light, no longer a threat, but a beacon. On a rainy morning, a crew unbolted the old sign and raised a new one: Brooklyn Galactic Security Research.
Brooklyn Galactic. Still can't believe that's our name now.
She turned back to the holoscreen, where Kier Zell and a dozen other species' faces waited.
All right, let's get through this agenda. Patch statuses, curriculum updates, and handling the waitlisted 3,000.
80% of Thrin Lattice admins are now certified. The remaining sectors schedule their exams next cycle.
6 months ago, I was bored and ate cold pizza. Now I am running an interspecies university.
Her coffee mug, covered in alien tech stickers, steamed beside the keyboard. The small firm that once shut down a galaxy now taught it, one relay patch, one class, one certified team at a time. And the 11 minutes that started it all became a footnote in the core curriculum. Module 1, the handshake flaw. Stephanie leaned back, reached for her alien-stickered mug, and got back to work. The galactic news feeds all carried the same headline in a dozen scripts: Human hacker becomes galactic teacher. In the council chamber, a corner once reserved for ceremonial awards now held a small holographic plaque. It read simply, "In recognition of the 11-minute network reformation, signed, the Galactic Council." Below the text, the image of the small matte black satellite had been etched into the very symbol of the reform. At sunset, Stephanie walked out of the office, messenger bag slung over her shoulder, the city warm and gold. She passed a news vendor's stand. The holographic cover blazed her own face, beside the words, "The 11-minute reformation."
That's never not going to be weird.
She grinned, a quick crinkle of her eyes, and kept walking, past the headlines, past the plaque, into the ordinary Brooklyn evening. The galaxy had been taught a lesson it would never forget, by a 26-year-old who got bored. And somewhere in the dark, the satellite still pulsed, secure. 6 months later, Stephanie sat on a Brooklyn Park bench, laughing at a message from Kier Zell.
The galaxy's most respected security architect sends memes now. Life is officially strange.
She slipped the phone into her pocket and looked up, the sunset fading to stars. The camera pulled back through the atmosphere to Earth from space, glowing with threads of light. Those threads were the communication lines, now hardened, now monitored by the teams she had built. At the center, the small satellite still orbited, quiet and constant. It pulsed with the rhythm of a network that would never be taken by surprise again. The cyan antenna tip glowed, a steady heartbeat in the dark. Back on Earth, Stephanie stood, stretched, and started walking home, the streetlights flickering on. 6 months, 11 minutes, one bored researcher. And the galaxy said thank you. The satellite's antenna pulsed, a rhythm now older than the security it inspired. On 1,000 worlds, screens flickered with 2 alien glyphs. System, Esichur. In Brooklyn, Stephanie's hands still flew across the keyboard, alien text scrolling beside human code. She was still teaching, still patching, years later, but the urgency had softened into quiet purpose. In a market on Kelvan, a young alien child pointed at a holographic poster of a human with glasses. The poster read, in their tongue, "Security hero." The child's compound eyes reflected the image, already dreaming of networks yet to be built. And in a small museum on Earth, a digital frame displayed the timer, frozen at 11 o'clock. It was the only artifact from the day one bored researcher changed everything. 11 minutes, sealed in a frame, and a galaxy that learned to listen. The map bloomed. A galaxy of green nodes and threads of light, all centered on one small satellite. It orbited there, silent and unnoticed, just as it had been before the 11 minutes. Then a digital plaque materialized before it, suspended in the hollow display. It read, "The 11 minutes that changed the galaxy." No name, no date, only the number. The plaque was the galaxy's final admission, a lesson learned the hard way. The satellite pulsed once, a gentle cyan flicker, as if acknowledging the words. Then the map began to dim, node by node, fading back into the dark. The screen went quiet, leaving only the after-image of a secure galaxy. And somewhere, a 26-year-old poured another coffee, already on to the next thing. The galaxy would never forget.